as a child of two cultures, you gain quite a unique perspective on things, especially as you grow older and you continue this journey of exploring identities and cultures and so on and so on. So recently I watched a French documentary about the People's Party of Denmark. So Denmark and most Scandinavian country, from us non-Scandinavian people, understood it's a very free, tolerant society. But what this documentary revealed is that there is definitely an ugly underbelly to Danish, Swedish societies, whereby there is xenophobia. There is a pushback against immigration, especially from the Muslim world. There is quite a bit of fear and intolerance. Now, a lot of people are fighting against this natural instinct because the national culture of Scandinavian, such as countries such as Denmark, is one of tolerance, acceptance, and personal liberty and freedom and space. But the reality is, the Danish people, some of them at least, feel a bit threatened by the incoming flood of immigration. So according to this documentary, there are now about 100,000 plus Muslim living in Denmark during a period of, I think, 15 years where they allowed immigration from predominantly Muslim countries. But now that that door has been shut, and it maybe have been shut permanently, right? So you can argue two ways, right? So there, and being an Asian American, being a Chinese American, grew up in the U.S., I completely understand both sides of this equation, and I'm gonna outline both sides of this argument in this video, and I hope at the end you're not gonna choose one side or another, but you will see that both sides have their own validity, point of view. Their point of view have their own validity, and that the true tolerance is not arguing that your point is right, but to accept other people's point. At the end, I'm going to leave you with a question: is what is the right thing to do, right? Okay, so let's start from immigrant perspective, because that's easy to understand, right? You traveled thousands of miles. You undertook risks and hardships in order to seek a better life. And when you arrive in a new country that advertises itself as free, tolerant, prosperous, and law-abiding, respect human rights, such as North America, such as Europe, you expect to be treated better than a lot of immigrants would. Now, the first generation immigrants are not going to make much fuss about it, simply because they understand their role is very precarious. They are guests in the country, and they know they can be kicked out anytime, right? Also they know they're a guest. It's not their country; they're a guest, and how they will survive in these guest countries depends on them. How well they integrate, how well they willing to bend their behavior to the local norm. However, this changed with second generation, because second generation have this tough difficulty idea to accept that yes, you are one of them, but no, you will never be one of them. And this is something that, like for me, I had to confront, right? Yes, I'm always going to be American, but no, I'm never going to be a white American, black American, mainstream American. I never will be that. It doesn't matter how hard I try to integrate myself into that, what they consider mainstream American society, right? There's always going to be part of me. I know it's going to be different. I know it's going to be different, and they know it's going to be different. So the real problem with immigration happens actually with the second generation, not with the first. Of course, with Muslim, it's a little bit different because Muslims have this added issue of religion, and because how can I put this way? Okay, so Muslim is one of the insurance that, at least at this point of religious development, does not really tolerate an opposing point of view. And I've been to a lot of Muslim countries, and on an individual level, Muslim people are extremely tolerant, nice, gentle, and easygoing. But on a social, grandiose perspective, a lot of them feel obligated and forced by the religion and also by peer pressure to keep to their Muslim ways, whatever that definition may be. And that's different from each country, right? A Muslim in Saudi is not going to feel the same way like a Muslim in UAE. It's not going to feel the same way as a Muslim in Indonesia or Malaysia. Every Muslim country I've traveled to have a different version of Muslim, Islam, have a different version of Islam. Some are a bit more militant, some a bit more relaxed, some a bit more orthodox, some are a bit more progressive. But Muslim is a religion that tolerates no others. It's not like Buddhism or Christianity in the way that coexist. You can coexist, but you can only coexist under Muslim guidance. It's like how can I put it? It's like we let you live like this, but don't push it. So this dominance when a Muslim country is fine, but when Muslim go to another country, become a huge both identity, religion, cultural, habitual conflict, because one way they cannot let go of their Muslim identity is who they are. And another way, they yet have to adapt to a much more liberal, accepting view, such as Scandinavia, such as Denmark, right? So, you see, it's really a problem for immigrants. They want to adopt, but yet they can't, especially for Muslims. This become a real problem second generation, right? Because they're taught they're citizen, they're given the passport, they grew up under the same educational system. But once they grew up, they go into society, they realize, okay, I am different. I am treated differently. People give me a different set of expectations, opportunities in life, and so forth and so on, so on. And they know, they feel, and of course they know, that no matter how well they pretend, how much they sing to the tones of Western ideals, they're never going to be treated with the Western ideals. So in a way, it's a kind of like fakeness to oneself and towards society whole, and society towards you. There's a fixed level of fakeness, right? I felt that. I experienced that as a Chinese American in the U.S. So I understand the difficulty of immigrants and minorities, right? So it's two reasons: immigrants and minorities. But now, but because I went back to China as a grown man, as an adult, and I've lived in Asia for the past over a decade, I live in a place where I'm the majority. You see? So suddenly the role reversed. So I no longer think like the minority. I understand the perspective of how these Danish people, for example, the Scandinavians, the Americans feel when all these colored people, when all these minorities come to America. Right? You have to understand. You have to be able to walk in other man's shoes to understand his point of view. I don't believe people are intrinsically evil. I do believe people are intrinsically scared. They want to protect themselves, their way of life, their belief system, and so forth. Who in their 30s, 40s, 50s want to deny that their way is correct or change completely the way they live for someone else's? Right? And if you think about who controls society, it's always the older generation. The ones that are least able to change are the ones that are always in control of a country, of a culture. So as I live in Shanghai as a Chinese American, I'm always torn between seeing things the American, the Western way, and seeing things the Chinese way. And I mean, look, the foreigners are treated quite well in China, right? They're almost always given preferential treatment in everything. And yet, behind that undercurrent, they're always they know they're outsider. It doesn't matter if they speak Chinese fluently. It doesn't matter if they marry a Chinese person. It doesn't matter if they open a company in China and pay tax and do all this stuff. They're never going to be a Chinese. They never will be accepted as a Chinese. They'll be treated courteously. They'll be even given a preferential guest seat at the table and so forth. But no, they will never be treated as Chinese. And now that I'm the majority, I understand why. I understand why the minority is treated the way they do, because they're there not majority foreigner when they come to a country, they're not there to adapt or to integrate. They cannot. It's not they don't want to. Believe me, they do. They can't. They wish to be one of the guys, but they cannot. The way they look, the way they talk, their belief system, all those things that grew up, they cannot change that after even the age of 6. It's difficult to change. Imagine immigrate to a country when you're 30, 40, right? So if you think about all these Muslim refugees that are going to Europe, going to Germany, England, Denmark, Holland, France, Spain, what's their age? Most of them already have family, already have children, already have all these things. It's very difficult for them to integrate, even if they want to integrate, right? But if you flip on the side, you say, yeah, I'm a French person, I'm a Danish person. I'm looking at a situation like, dude, these people are coming to my country, and instead of becoming Danish, they expect me to respect their way of living in my house, right? It's imagine someone come to your house and say, as a guest, and say, you know what? This house today should be run my way, the guest's way, not the host's way. And that same way in China, right? The foreigners always tolerated until they try to change things in China, and then they're no longer tolerated. It's like, hey, look, you can make your money here, you can have a good time, you can do whatever you want, but don't, this is China, right? This is a slogan, this is China, TIC. And so I understand from both sides the point. They're both right. The host countries have a right to defend their own culture. They should not need to integrate and accept who you are. You're the one coming to their country. Why should they accept you? You should learn to integrate toward them. But I also understand from immigrants and minority standpoint, it doesn't matter how hard we try to integrate. We're never going to get there. You understand? Doesn't matter how hard we can ever do. We'll never ever become one of them fully, 100%, truly ever. So now you understand from both sides' perspective. Who's right? Well, there's no right. That's the problem. There's no right. So then how do you solve this problem? That's the true value of this video. How do you solve this problem? Well, there are many ways to solve this problem. I will tell you what I see people around me solve the problem, right? So for those of my friends who are minorities, Asian, blacks, Latinos, the people that I grew up with, I became friends with, there are often two choices. You stay in America, and you try to do the best you can with it, right? You accept the card that was dealt to you, and you do the best you can. And that's a very honorable choice. It's because it's not an easy choice. But people often choose that, one, out of fear for change, and two, is because they just don't have that kind of a motivation to really uproot themselves. Nothing wrong with that. Right? The second option is what I did, which is, you know what? This shoe's never going to fit my feet. Doesn't matter how I walk on it, how I try to break it in. So let me find a place where the shoes fit my feet. And I came back to Asia. In fact, I went back to China. I realized even the Chinese shoes don't fit my feet anymore because I'm no longer fully Chinese. There are many things in China that I disagree with because I grew up in the U.S., right? I have different set of values, I have different set of beliefs. But I fully understand, appreciate, and accept the way things are run in China, simply because I understand now. I have a depth of perception that China work with a different reality than the U.S. This is the problem that most Americans never get to understand, is they don't understand that China and Chinese live in a different set of reality, different set of circumstances. So you cannot expect them to behave like America. Okay? So what do? I chose a middle ground. I chose Malaysia. Half West, because of their colonial past and their affinity toward the Western culture, but half East. You know, large Chinese population, very Asian. Malays themselves are very nice, gentle people, very accepting, very tolerant of outsiders and foreigners. I found a happy medium for myself. And that is something that very small number of us willing to do, but for those who are willing to do and who are willing to continue to do it till they get it right, meaning try different countries to find the one that fits them, the reward is huge. I live today better, way better than everyone I knew back in the United States, whether they're my Mexican American friends, they're my Black American friends, or even some of them my white American friends. Even they're not they don't feel comfortable in the U.S., right? I don't know if white people don't feel comfortable in the U.S. Who can feel comfortable in the U.S.? But that's the reality. I fully understand their predicament, and I sympathize with them. But none of them want to uproot themselves to try something completely new. Very, very few. It's a tough journey. Many people uproot themselves. I've seen a lot of Americans who went to China, white people, Asian people, Chinese, and so forth, Chinese American, and they never found what they're looking for, and they went back to U.S. Or they continue on. They went to Europe. Some went to Middle East. They keep going, and I don't know if they're ever going to find it. I hope they do. I hope they, like me, they found their final happy resting place. But it's not guaranteed, right? But when you do, the reward is amazing. The reward is amazing. So, I guess what I'm saying is that when it comes to minorities, immigration, all this stuff, don't blame white people. They have a right to protect, defend, and preserve their culture. Those countries you want to go to, well, they're white people's culture. They achieved that level of wealth and material and life comfort because their rules, because of the way they set up their society. Now, I know you can't go to those countries and want to enjoy their benefits, but then want to change things. Because when you change things, you will screw it up. You end up being the country they came from as an immigrant, right? And the last thing you really want is go back to the same crap that you came from, right? So when I look at these immigrants like Muslim, blacks that protest, not treated fairly, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, if it's so bad, why don't you go back to your country? I mean, I say it sounds like a white American guy was Trump supported, but if they make sense. If you don't like America, you don't like Europe so bad, go back to your country. Oh, you don't want to go? No, obviously this place is still better, treating you better, right? But at the same time, just keep in mind, don't judge white people, please. And Chinese too these days now, because there's more and more immigrants going to China. Please understand. It's hard for us immigrants. It's hard for us minorities. We try. A lot of us really do try. It's just at some point we gave up because never going to work out, and we're frustrated and we just gave up. Because now our system is now our people that's in charge. There's nothing we can do. We're always going to be second tier, third tier, fourth tier. All right, that's my talk today. I hope you come away with this with some true tolerance, which is not to say the immigrants are right or minorities are right or the white people are right or da. It's just that everyone's right. And some issues just cannot be solved. And it's better to leave the judgments for another day. All right, bye-bye.